I get it.
Zohran. Boy, another fantasy that's not reality. Eugene, Oregon. Have you ever been to Eugene? I've been to Eugene. Come on, this is New York City.
Would you boycott any of the city's parades?
No, I would not boycott any parades.
Mr.
It's the mayor's
Cuomo, would you
responsibility
boycott?
to be available to all racial, ethnic, and religious groups.
No, I wouldn't unless they discriminated.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades?
A number of them. I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been trying to speak to as many New Yorkers as possible.
Okay.
I don't have the list of all the parades I've missed.
Wow, that's a
All right.
lot.
The
mayor should be going to all parades.
Let me ask you this. Are there any parades that don't exist that you think should? Mr. Mamdani?
I haven't thought much about parades, to be honest with you.
Mr. Cuomo?
I have not thought. I don't even know what parade doesn't exist, frankly.
Could be for anything. Mr. Sliwa?
Every parade has the right to exist. Mr. Mamdani, would you protect the Christopher Columbus statues that exist here in the city?
I'm telling you, my focus is on affordability. I'm not thinking about
statues. Well, you're not answering the question.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're
not answering the question.
He gave the finger to the Columbus Day statue.
That issue's come up.
That's what we call it, disgracia.
Boy. So we got to talk about one of the most humiliating debates for the Democrat Party that I've seen in a long time. And my gut feeling is that the Democrat primary is probably going to go a lot like this New York City mayor's race debate, because, I mean, let's be real, that's what this is a preview of. It is a preview of what's going to happen in the Democrat primary if the Democrat Party, the Democrat establishment, politicians continue to fall to the far-left radicals.
Candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except, that is totally false. I worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to when you were the governor. Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here. They were
before I was here?
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community. Yeah. Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups, tolerance groups, anti-Semitic groups, etc.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay, and I think that this New York City mayor's race is a representation of that. And that is part of the reason why this debate was so bad for Democrats, because it basically shows that Democrats do not have an answer to socialist, right? Cuomo is certainly not the answer.
Mr. Cuomo, something of a reverse scenario for you. The CEO of a similar company with 1,000 good jobs tells you she's very close to moving her headquarters out of New York City. She cites everything from taxes to the crushing cost of living for her employees in New York City. How do you convince that CEO to stay? Please look into the camera and make your elevator pitch. You have 30 seconds.
We know that the other companies in New York City. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, Andrew.
The question is to me in this camera?
Yes, the question is how you would convince the CEO of a company with 1,000 good jobs who's looking to move out of New York City because of the high cost of living for her employees and taxes, how you would convince her to stay in New York City.
In 15 seconds?
30.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. I get it.
And part of the reason why Cuomo is not the answer is because although Cuomo, I think, did a decent job at exposing Zohran Mamdani as a far-left radical, Cuomo himself isn't really that far away, right? He's not really that different from Mamdani, even on subjects like, for example, crime, which again should be an easy subject to attack Zohran Mamdani on because he thinks that police officers are racist. He wants to defund the police. This guy would totally destroy law enforcement in New York City. But, you know, Cuomo, again, doesn't have a great track record when it comes to that as well. Take a look.
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day, you could have a hurricane, you have, God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic, If you don't know
Thank
what
you,
you're
Mr.
doing,
Cuomo.
people
We have to
could
move on.
die.
Mr. Mamdani,
Yeah.
want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Yeah.
Candidates, we have
you're
to-
not a Democrat,
Candidates,
right?
we
You're
have-
not a Democrat. You're a Democratic
All right,
socialist.
candidates, we have
You didn't
other
vote for
ground-
Kamala Harris, right?
We have
No.
other ground to cover. No, we have other
No,
ground to
that's-
cover.
that's an
will circle back
incendiary
that.
charge. I wanna be very-
You may have a chance to address it, but we do.
I'll be
we have
very
a lot
quick.
of issues to get to with New Yorkers, Mr. Mamdani.
I'll be very quick.
You didn't say leave it blank in the Kamala
I'll be very
campaign?
quick. I said leave it blank in the presidential primary because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like
Okay.
many Americans, I was horrified
Okay,
by the
Mr.
Israeli
Mamdani,
genocide
all
of Palestinians.
okay.
And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the
Okay,
Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani.
The difference between me and the assemblyman is he doesn't like the police. That's why he won't hire more police when everyone else says we need more police. He wants to use social workers on domestic violence calls, which are very dangerous. And he's told you what he thinks. He thinks the police are racist, wicked, corrupt, and a threat to public safety.
Thank you.
Those are his words.
Very quick. Mr. Mamdani, very quick.
Look, Andrew Cuomo is a politician of the past, and all he can speak about are the tweets of the past in 2020. Those are tweets which I have apologized for to New Yorkers and police officers directly, and they are not what I am actually running on.
No,
but you're
you haven't.
incapable
But
of
quickly,
actually
Mr.
speaking about the platform that we have
Mr.
here,
Mamdani,
which is
can
one
we
that will
just-
keep New Yorkers safe.
Can we just quickly ask you, because I think what some people feel they haven't heard from you, we hear you saying that you don't believe that anymore and you've apologized. People have not heard you sort of describe the evolution of your thought, how you got from there to here.
You know, growing up in this city, I would think often about safety and justice and the ways in which that relationship has been irrevocably harmed when I learned about the exonerated five, when I learned about Sean Bell, when I learned about Eric Garner, when I learned about Michael Brown. And then in 2020, when I wrote these tweets, learning about the death of George Floyd. And that was a moment where it felt as if the distance between these two ideals had never been further. And in becoming an assembly member and serving and representing more than 100,000 people in Queens, learning that to deliver justice means to also deliver safety. And that means leading a city
Mr. Mamdani,
where you recognize the
we have to
bravery
move
of the
on.
men and women who joined the NYPD and put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
It means representing the Muslims who were illegally surveilled in my
Thank you
district
so much,
and the
Mr.
black and brown New
Yeah, I
Yorkers who've been
know. All right,
victims
thank
of
you,
police
Mr.
brutality.
Cuomo, because
Yeah.
when you were governor for 8 years, your parole board released 43 cop killers back into the street. Your father, when he was governor,
actually have to move on.
released
Mr.
none.
Sliwa,
I knew Mario
Mr. Sliwa,
Cuomo.
we're moving on.
You
Mr.
know
Mamdani,
Mario
since he
Cuomo,
made-
Andrew Cuomo.
I'm sorry,
You
we have
released
to,
cops.
Mr. Sliwa,
Don't say you're
Mr.
pro-Cuomo.
Mamdani, do you want to
Mr. Sliwa.
respond briefly to the comments that Mr. Cuomo raised about things you've said about police? You can do a brief response to that.
I have been clear time and time again that as much as Andrew Cuomo wants to bring up tweets from 2020, which is around the same time that he was sending seniors to their death in nursing homes, I am looking to work with police officers, not to defund the NYPD, looking to ensure that officers can actually do one job when they're signing up to join that department.
But he's
not
okay,
the many
we're out
jobs
of-
we're asking them to
He
do
was
today.
specifically
with the mental
referring to
health
comments
crisis.
you made. We will come back to that, but we're out
You
of
said they
time.
are
Ms.
wicked
Melissa
and
Barrett.
corrupt
Candidates,
and racist.
We're moving
That's
on.
what you
Thank
said.
you.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, again, I think that clip perfectly encapsulates the problem for Democrats, okay, is that, yes, although somebody like Andrew Cuomo's criticisms of Zohran Mamdani are valid, okay, the problem is that he really doesn't have room to talk because he's a lefty, right, when it comes to certain issues like crime and law and order, right? He's not great on those issues. He's also corrupt as hell, okay? So when you're trying to criticize Zohran Mamdani, it's just going to be hard because, again, you don't have a track record to fall back on that's good. Okay, everybody knows that Cuomo was responsible for those nursing home deaths, right? He just made bad policy decisions. Again, this guy has been soft on crime. He supported all the bail reform, all of the BS that has led to the rise in crime. Like, he supported all that stuff, right? This all happened under him. I don't understand why Democrats picked the absolute worst dude to take on a socialist. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. So, again, that is kind of the issue here. And, again, that's part of the reason why this whole debate was a clown show. Because it seems as if Zohran's chances of winning are going up, right? They're going up despite the fact that Eric Adams dropped out of the race. It seems like you now have people saying, you know, I don't know about this this Cuomo guy, okay? And Curtis Sliwa is still holding steady. But even if he dropped out of the race, Cuomo doesn't have enough juice to take on Mamdani, so it seems. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Meanwhile, in New York City, mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani lead is growing among likely and registered voters, according to Fox News polls. 52% of likely voters backing Mamdani, with independent candidate Andrew Cuomo trailing behind at 28%. GOP candidate Curtis Sliwa polling at just 14% before the candidates met to debate their policies last night.
And there'll be another debate, but last night was a big one. Mamdani faced a lot of pushback on how he plans to pay for his costly agenda that includes rent control, universal child care, and free and fast buses.
Tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this in 1 minute, if you can.
Look, a lot of people have called even my campaign a non-starter when we first began. And now I stand before you proud to be the Democratic nominee who got the most votes in city primary history. And I believe we will see the same thing with our push to ensure that we are taxing the wealthiest and the most profitable corporations the fair amount that they should pay.
But again, Mr. Mamdani, I know Governor Hochul indicated this week there may be some open windows, but more or less income tax on millionaires is off the table, according to the governor.
Look, I've said very clearly, making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal child care a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. If you raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, you'd be raising $5 billion in and of itself.
Well, Zohran,
You know what's crazy about this, bro? Is that, again, politicians used to run on not raising taxes, right? The left has become so radical. They're like, yeah, raising taxes sounds great, right? That sounds amazing. But what these people got to understand, these losers, and that's why I call them, because that is what it comes from. It comes from a loser mentality, right? Somebody else got more than me, so therefore the system must be unfair, right? Somebody's doing me wrong because somebody has more than me, right? You know, a loser is fine with, hey, let's take somebody else's money and redistribute it, right, to other folks who, you know, in a lot of cases aren't working as hard. They aren't taking as much risk, right? They're not making the right decisions. And that is essentially what Zohran Mamdani's redistribution plan is about, right? It's about taking money from those who are the most productive and giving it to those who are not as productive. And ultimately, in the day, that is a very appealing message to people who, again, are unproductive, right? And that is honestly a very hard thing to fight politically, right? It's a very hard thing to debate against because, again, the average person, you're in your position in life because somebody has more than you, we need to take from them and give to you. It sounds great, but people don't think about what are the actual consequences. What happens when all of these rich people decide, hey, you know what? We're not paying more than 50% of our income in tax, which is crazy. 50% of your income goes to the government. That's insane, right? Like, we're just not going to do it. We're going to move to other places. We're going to move the money. When the money leaves, how are you going to afford the buses? How are you going to afford the so-called free child care? How are you going to afford all that stuff? It's not free, right? And that's the problem that people understand. This stuff, every service provided by the government costs. It costs taxpayers, right? You're taking money from somebody and you're basically redistributing it to other people. And in some cases, that may make sense for certain things, right? But it's not something that should be a go-to. It should not be a, oh, well, this is the solutions to everything. That is what the left offers. The left is essentially offering, well, the solution is just more government, right? To everything, every problem, right? More government. Oh, college is unaffordable. Hey, just have the government pay for it, right? Oh, healthcare is unaffordable. Just have the government pay for it. Childcare is unaffordable. Just have the government pay for it, right? Like, they have nothing else outside of, well, the government should pay for it, right? And that is not the answer. In fact, that is a toxic poison pill that, unfortunately, is part of the reason why, in my opinion, the nuclear family in this country is falling apart, right? When people talk about low birth rates, right? Oh, well, why is it that we're not reproducing? Well, think about where you see this pattern. Mainly in countries that reside in the global north, right? So technologically advanced countries, economically advanced countries, okay? You're seeing this, okay, in countries that, you know, you have a lot more socialism, a lot of government services, things of that nature. Yeah, people aren't reproducing. The reason why people aren't reproducing is because a family, children, are not necessary anymore, right? When the government is providing everything for you, there's less need to have a child, okay? There's less need to have a big family when, again, the government can essentially replace the functions or roles of a family. Like, for example, when you talk about childcare being free, well, hey, there's no purpose for grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, right, cousin, whoever, right? there's no purpose for that when you have the government say, hey, we'll take care of kids. When historically speaking, when you talk about childcare, that was a family and neighborhood thing, right? That was a community thing. Okay, the community took care of the kids, right? The family took care of the kids. It wasn't, nobody went to the government and was like, hey, well, you know, we need the government to take care of children, right? It's not what happens, right? When you talk about the role of a man, the government coming in and say, hey, if you are a single mom, okay, if you have kids out of wedlock, we're going to give you food stamps, we're going to give you rental assistance, we're going to make sure you're covered. So therefore, you don't need a man, right? What does that lead to? Again, it leads to more single mothers raising these kids without fathers, and these kids go on to become agents of chaos, criminals, thugs, hoodlums, right? Negative influences on society. That's what happens, right? And it's because the government is funding it, right? They're funding and incentivizing bad behavior, okay? That's the problem. So that's what people got to understand about the government, right? And this, oh, well, let's give everybody free stuff. Somebody's paying for it, and that leads to negative externalities that people really don't think about enough, okay? When you talk about the family, okay, when you talk about birth rates, I'm telling you, right? I'm like convinced it's literally because there's way too much government, right? In countries where they really don't have that much, where they don't have the government to rely on, they have a lot more kids. They reproduce. Well, why is that? They reproduce out of necessity. Family becomes extremely important because they can't rely on the government. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that the United States needs to be poor, right? Or that we need to be a poor country in order to have more children. But what I'm saying is that people got to understand that the low birth rates are basically a result of technological and economic advancement. And when you have technological and economic advancement with more socialized programs, at that point, the need for a family becomes obsolete, right? You don't need a family anymore when you can just rely on the government to do everything for you, right? Like that is what's happening, okay? And I think that is a real conversation and maybe another video for another day. But I mean, that's my point. That's what really turns me off about these communists, these socialists, is that they're just accelerating the destruction of the nuclear family with more of these government handouts, these government programs. People need to rely on other people. You need to rely on your family. People need to be reliant on each other. That's a good thing, right? As humans, we've done that our whole lives, right? It has to be something that's done by the community, right? By people, not the government, okay?
Boy, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free, free, free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality.
The Assemblyman's whole plan is based on a myth. He said he's going to raise the taxes the same as New Jersey, corporate tax. No, it would be double the tax. You would see New Yorkers on 995 fleeing to Florida.
Governor Cuomo is 100% right, but I digress. And just over the bridge in New Jersey, Republican Jack Ciattarelli is closing the gap on Democrat Mikey Sherrill. According to a Fox News poll, get this, Ciattarelli is now trailing by only 5 points among likely voters after trailing by 8 points last month.
Sherrill, on the other hand, losing points on honesty and trust among registered voters, dropping 4 points since September. Ciattarelli losing just 1 point in that category.
Yeah, so, I mean, hey, that's a good sign. I mean, if we can steal one of these elections, I mean, the New York race is basically, again, done. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But if we can steal New Jersey or Virginia, that would be great, right? I mean, at least just one big GOP win there would be amazing, okay? But we're going to see. What I do know, again, that this New York race is basically over, so it seems. It looks like Zohran is gaining more momentum because, again, Cuomo is just terrible. He's absolutely terrible, and Curtis Sliwa is not dropping out. That's what it looks like right now.
There is no sign that the race is tightening at all, Kate Baldwin. If anything, Zohran Mamdani's lead is getting bigger, wider, larger. You look in September in a three-way, Mamdani was at 45, Cuomo 15 points back, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, at 17. Look at where we are now. Mamdani is actually up. He's up to 49%. Then you got Cuomo at 31%, so a 15-point advantage back in September on the average. Now it is 18 points. The bottom line is this. Andrew Cuomo needs something very big to change at this particular point, unless, of course, he becomes Teddy Roosevelt overnight. Because if something doesn't change over the final 2.5 weeks of this campaign, this race is pretty much over.
Yeah, and again, the most important part about this is that even if Sliwa drops out, Cuomo still would not have enough to beat Mamdani, right? That is the most devastating part about this, okay? Because, again, you could argue that, hey, well, you know, Cuomo's losing because him and Sliwa are splitting votes, right? Which, again, would be an accurate statement. It would have been an accurate statement a few months ago, right, or a month ago. Because in this poll, right, you had Cuomo and Sliwa together. Again, if all of Sliwa's votes went to Cuomo, he's beating Mamdani, right? Because Mamdani seemed to basically top out around 44, 45%. He can't really reach 50%. But now, after Eric Adams has dropped out, you have Cuomo. You know, he's not doing that much better, and Curtis Sliwa is not doing great either. So now Mamdani is getting more votes, and he's almost up to 50%. And that, to me, is devastating, because that means, again, even if Sliwa drops out, the race still would not be in the favor of Cuomo. And again, that is just humiliating for Democrats at this point. Again, this to me means that is open season on the Democrat Party, right? When it comes to their presidential primary, like, they're done. They're cooked. If Mamdani wins with these type of margins, they're done.
What is the historical kind of precedent for a comeback like this?
Yeah, okay. So I went back through the history books, Kate Baldwin. You know I love going through my spreadsheets more than anything else. I love my girlfriend. I love my spreadsheets.
Hold on now, girlfriend. Right? I'm surprised, right? Girlfriend. Okay. I hear you.
I love cream soda. What happens if we look at the historical spreadsheets? Look at this. Mamdani leads by 18 points right now. Look at the largest polling average miss since 1989. You know what it was? It was 11 points. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 11 points is less than 18 points. So if Andrew Cuomo is going to come back and win, either something like Curtis Sliwa has to drop out of the race, or you need a polling miss that is nearly twice as large as the largest miss on record. So you're going to probably need something historically unprecedented for Andrew Cuomo to win this race if the polling average holds through Election Day.
There are lots of reasons why anyone picks one candidate over another, but what is some of what you're seeing why Mamdani's doing so well?
Okay, why is Mamdani doing so well? Sometimes, Kate Baldwin, politics is simple. Life is never simple, but politics can be simple. And it simply comes down to this. Mamdani is the likable guy, and Andrew Cuomo isn't. This is not a case of the lesser of two evils. You look at the net favorable rating. Mamdani is at plus 15 points. Andrew Cuomo has been underwater in the average poll throughout this entire campaign.
Yeah. So you've seen that, you heard that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's easy to have a high favorable when you're promising everybody free stuff, right? Free this, free that, right? Yeah, people gonna like you. Okay, the masses are gonna like you when you promise free stuff. But I'm telling you, it's a poison pill. But ultimately today, you got to give leftists what they want, right? That's what it seems like. In order for them to learn, okay, you got to give them what they want. That's the best way to red pill them, okay? Because you got to live through it, right? You got to live through socialism in order to understand it is bad. And it's really a damn shame, because if you picked up a history book, you would have to live through it in order to understand that this is not something that you want. But again, you know, if leftists were living in reality, then they wouldn't be leftists. So we're going to see what happens, but it certainly looks like New York City is going to end up like London, right? They're going out of London, and we're going to see how this works out. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.